Associated Students and Election Commissioner for this year's student body elections. With me this evening is our ASGCC President and Student Trustee Sune Agakian, who will be helping me moderate tonight's forum. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know, the work of student leaders right now is so important, especially in this new online setting we're facing. And tonight you'll be meeting your future vice presidents for the ASGCC. So for tonight, just to give you a breakdown of how this forum is going to work, each candidate is going to be given 60 seconds to introduce themselves. Candidates will be cut off at the 60-second point, but we may give a warning before it reaches time. After candidates introduce themselves, when Suna asks that first introductory question, we'll move on to more specific questions related to the positions that each candidate is running for. If at any point you guys as attendees have questions that you want to submit, please send a private message to ASGCC. So not me, but ASGCC. And keep in mind that because of time constraints, we won't be able to get to all questions. But yeah, without further ado, I will go ahead and let Suna ask our very first question for our candidates.
I will be asking this question and choosing someone to speak. We will begin by having each one of you introduce yourselves. In your introduction, please include what position you are running for, your qualifications, and your goals. Annabelle, please go ahead.
Everyone, my name is Annabelle Mayer, and I'm running to be Vice President of Organizations. I am a first-year student at GCC and in my first semester of being a senator. As a senator of organizations of GCC, I've learned so much about the importance of community in a college setting. Our clubs are the backbone of student life, and without them, many students would lose their connection to the college. I want to further implement this into the new online setting because I feel like a lot of people are having a disconnect from the college currently, and I just want to continue with that, especially with my semester being here and realizing how important it is in person. It's become more accessible online to people who wouldn't be able to be on campus, and I want to further implement that through the Instagram account and through everything else. And as your vice president of organizations, my primary goal is to encourage collaboration between clubs and create an inclusive community. Being a fresh face, I feel I'm prepared to adapt to new situations. With remote learning continuing to fall, I'm the best candidate to transition our clubs and events fully online. A vote for me is a vote for commitment to diversity in the face of adversity. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabelle. Next up, we have Carmen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen Hovhannissian, and I am running to be your future Vice President of Organizations for the 2020-2021 school year. My experience in the Organizations Committee as a senator for 2 semesters has prepared me to take on this role and be your ideal candidate. I have a lot of experience co-organizing and co-conducting our IOC meetings, enforcing IOC bylaws, creating, distributing the IOC minutes and agenda. I have experience distributing the OAS applications. I am a liaison with all students and clubs and organizations. I've planned and coordinated presentations for the IOC. I'm a student representative on numerous governance committees, which have allowed me to represent the underrepresented on campus. I've assigned specific clubs to senators of organizations. I've recruited and promoted student club and organizations and many, many more. For the future of Organizations Committee, especially because we will most likely be online. Sorry, what? I didn't hear you.
You have 5 seconds left.
Oh, sorry, okay. I want to implement more club organization collaborations because GCC needs that, especially in this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Next up, we have Elise.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. My name is Elise Dulai, and I'm running to be your next Vice President of Administration. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about myself. I like to say that I grew up at GCC, and I've spent the last 10 years somewhere on campus doing homework or just hanging out with my cousins who also went to the school. And in my 1 semester as a senator of ASGCC, I have demonstrated my ability to dream big and execute my plans. As a senator of administration, I have had the opportunity to connect with instructors, students, clubs, and members of the community to create events like Sexual Assault Awareness Week and the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month celebration with my committee. I've also served as GCC's delegate to the Student Senate for California Community Colleges and planned independent events like the COVID-19 Town Hall and Diversity and Student Leadership Roundtable. As your Vice President of Administration, my goals are to continue to celebrate diversity, empower marginalized groups, and assist all students during my time at GCC. My commitment to this college is endless, and I would be grateful for the opportunity to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Moving on to Emily.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Rostami and I'm running to be the next Vice President of Relations. My mission in running for Vice President of Relations is to bring diversity, equity, and inclusion into ASGCC, as well as to strengthen the Relations Committee by improving our social media pages through promoting student engagement and putting on engaging events. I have served as a Senator of Relations for the past 2 semesters, and I have acquired the necessary leadership skills to take on this role and efficiently run the Relations Committee. Some of the things that I have done this year is I've served on 5 governance committees. I co-wrote the Fall 2019 Diversity and Inclusion Recruitment video. And I have implemented our Monday motivation and Thursday takeover segments on our Instagram to promote student engagement during the COVID-19 pandemic and much more. I am the most experienced candidate going up for this position, and I truly believe that I am the best person to take on this role for the upcoming year. And I'm also running with an amazing team in which our goal is to diversify ASGCC, advocate for student equity and inclusion, as well.
Thank you, Emily. Moving on to Isabella Martirosian.
Hi everyone, my name is Isabella Martirosian and I'm running to be your next VP of Finance for the 2020-2021 school year. I have been in AS for 2 semesters as a senator, one in activities, and I'm currently in the Finance Committee. So in activities, I definitely got a lot of experience planning and interacting with different people on campus to put on events. In finance, I've been doing requisitions and the daily tasks, but I'm actually right now doing the budget for the following year. And I think something really important in a VP is understanding where the budget comes from and how to use it. So I have the most experience as a Vice President of Finance candidate, and I think I have the best ability to distribute that budget that in a way that's most effective to our student body. So voting for me is definitely a vote for equity and quality.
Thank you, Isabella. Moving on to Lygia Mamikonian.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. I'm so sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Lygia Mamikonian. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm running to be your future Vice President of Relations for the 2020-2021 school year. Using skills I gained from industry skilled internships from marketing design and everything media, I'm able to communicate and find solutions to the concerns of GCC students more efficiently because I stand for the students and I am a representation for the voice of so many students. As a current Center of Relations, I've brought together our community by featuring a diverse array of students on the AS Instagram. It's called Quarantine Care. It's on every Friday. I've initiated and helped create a virtual tour of GCC through a governance meeting, which I took action for. And I've coordinated engaging educational events. I believe I'm the most qualified for this position because using leadership experience from being the Director of Relations for Humans GCC and the Business Club's Director of Finance, I've gained extensive leadership knowledge that I believe
5 seconds.
prepared me for this position. So a vote for me would be a vote for experience, equity, and quality, and I hope to get your vote.
Thank you, Lygia. Moving on to Noah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Noah Zarian Samadi, and I'm running to be the next Vice President of Finance. So as an ASGCC activity senator, active member of the Scholars Program, and president of the Alliance of Chess Players, among many other commitments, I have had the privilege to explore many of the programs and opportunities offered at our college. I hope to use this insight as a way to consider the many perspectives of students and faculty members. The connection that a person can make with their environment plays an immense role in dictating their potential to spark change and accomplish feats within the boundaries of that same environment. So, As Vice President of Finance, I will ensure that the college atmosphere that students find themselves in is one that is encouraging, comforting, and inclusive. Through the funding of programs and opportunities across campus and the consideration of student financial concerns, we will strive to create optimal circumstances for students to be able to grasp their academic and career goals while obtaining an essential education. My mission is to instill a sense of belongingness to the college in every student so that they may feel more at home and at ease throughout their college career. I believe that we can enrich the GCC experience so that students can feel proud of their academic pathway and encourage students to meet their educational goals. I could not be more eager to work with a team of students that truly hope to endeavor in making GCC a better learning institution for all. We will help lead the students of GCC to attain their long-term goals and enjoy the road to reach those objectives.
Thank you, Noah. Moving on to Milena.
Hi everyone, my name is Milena Sargsyan. I'm a freshman in GCC. It's first time I submitted for Vice President of Finance. I'm considering to be a Vice President of Finance. My goal is make changes in campus valuable, which will be valuable and important for students. I will serve as one of the official student the representatives in committee, and voting me means keep the loyalty and trust in family of ASGCC.
Thank you, Milena. Moving on to Naya Gaitan.
Hey guys, my name is Naya Gaitan and I am running to be your VP of Activities. I believe that this position is in need of immediate change of leadership and this can only be done by me. I am a first-generation college student. I have been in student government continuously for 7 years now, currently experiencing an internship with the well-known sector of the stock market, NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, and I'm currently in my 3rd year of tutoring. As you can see, I've greatly managed being involved and doing all things I love, and I've never been known to give up, only producing the best work. As Vice President of Activities, my end goal isn't to produce as many fun events as I can. My end goal is to carry out new, diverse, innovative, quality events that haven't been done before. I'm not going to follow what has been done in the past. AS and the Activities Committee is in need of a change, especially due to this new remote setting. I will, of course, take what has worked in the past, but take the initiative needed to create something even better and be inclusive to all students on campus, not leaving anyone behind. A major part of my campaign and overall passion is to make students feel included and be the representation and diversity that they wouldn't get anywhere else. Our strengths lie in our differences. Did I mute myself?
Thank you, Naya. Thank you, Naya. Moving on to Ruben Agajanian.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ruben Agajanian. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and I'm running to be your VP of Activities for the 2020 and 2021 school year. So a small list of my qualifications include being a Senator of Activities right now in this spring semester. And throughout my dual enrollment for the past 2 years of my last years in high school, I've attended most of the events that ASGCC has thrown. So I've become very familiar with what the Activities Committee does. Not to mention, I've been personally mentored by the 2 previous VPs of activities. So I know firsthand of what it's like to stay up, plan all these events, and fully execute them. My plans for the future include bringing back all the events that we weren't able to do because of this remote environment, but we will use this as a change to implement all these ideas online and make sure every student is included and that they also have all the fun that they would have on campus. More importantly, I want to expand to all the other groups on campus to really tie in GCC as a community and make sure everyone is included and so that everyone also has fun as well.
Thank you, Ruben. Moving on to Tigranuhi Berberian.
Hi everyone, my name is Tigranuhi Berberian. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I'm running to be your future Vice President of Administration. Currently, I've been an associated student for 2 full semesters for the fall and spring semester, and I believe I've gained the experience necessary to lead this organization effectively and efficiently. During my time, I've participated in meetings with faculty and staff, to voice and find solutions to challenges faced by GCC students. I find great importance to involve students on our campus and to create an inviting environment on our GCC campus. During my time as VP, I plan to use my position to bring support to GCC students in whatever they need. This includes and is not limited to hosting events, whether we are remote for the fall semester or on campus, and representing students' opinions in legislative meetings and organizing the school legislative agenda. A vote for Tigrani Berberian for Vice President of Administration is a vote for equity, experience, and quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Tigranuhi.
Kayla?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll begin with the candidates for the Vice President of Organizations position. So Carmen and Annabelle, both of you are in the organizations committee currently and know that there are many cultural clubs, including ones based on race, gender, sexual orientation, etc. These clubs are representative of the diverse backgrounds of the GCC student population. And looking at your campaign materials, both of you say you value equity. Given this, how will you ensure that you promote equity in your roles? And are you willing to publicly commit today to recruit and select senators that are representative of the diversity in the clubs that you will lead, including senators from different ethnicities, genders, religions, disabilities, sexual orientations, etc.? So for this question, I will ask Annabelle to go ahead first.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing also with the team that I'm running with is that we truly, I think, represent, GCC in an extent that hasn't been before by other teams that have run. Because the truth is that our ASGCC is not nearly as inclusive and not nearly as diverse as it should be. And that's just a fact. We're working towards it, and the truth is that in terms of religion, in terms of ethnic background, in terms of race, we are lacking. And I think the most important thing is that without student voices, without student voices of all different backgrounds, how can you try to say that we are just speaking for everyone? It's impossible. Without a team that looks like GCC, how can we represent GCC? And I think the most important thing is that we already have so many amazing clubs that that envelop many different cultures in GCC, but there is still so much opportunity. And there's so many people that I just talked to a girl the other day in one of the other events that we put on that says she hasn't really met any other Latino girls at at GCC. And the truth is that there are so many that do not have the ability to get together because of the lack of organizations. And that's my goal.
Thank you. Carmen?
I 100% agree with Annabelle. I think ASGCC has so much room for improvement, and I'm ready to be the reason for that improvement. Especially being in the organizations committee for 2 semesters, I've been involved with all of the clubs on campus for these 2 semesters, been in constant contact with them. I know their stories and I know their reasoning for their clubs. I know what they are trying to push and what they are trying to fight for, and I'm ready to be alongside of them, helping them throughout the way. I am 100% ready to commit to, especially during the interviews, to have people join ASGCC, different types of people that look like GCC, people that can represent every single culture, race, ethnicity, people that can make a difference, people that can make a change on our campus. And that is exactly what ASGCC and GCC in general needs. Thank you.
Okay. I will now ask each candidate to answer the following question in under 15 seconds. You will be timed and cut off at the 15-second mark. What is the #1 challenge facing GCC students? Let's start with Tigranuhi.
I'm unmuted, correct? Okay, perfect. Hi guys. So the question was, what is the challenge facing GCC students? I feel like currently, due to the remote situation that we're having right now due to COVID-19, I feel like a lot of people aren't getting the full support from GCC, whether it be from ASGCC or clubs or students.
Thank you so much, Tigranuhi. Moving on to Elise.
Hi, I would say that the biggest challenge is access and also representation, which I think both of those go hand in hand. A lot of students are struggling right now because they don't have access to the technology that enables them to participate in their classes. And that's a problem that GCC should really be addressing with hotspots and Chromebooks and everything else.
Thank you, Elise. Moving on to Isabella.
I would definitely say that one of the biggest struggles for our students is being represented in terms of like a lot of our grants and things like that go for a lot of the documented students, but we have a large population of undocumented students. And I feel that as a VP, I would definitely fight to get more funding for those students. And
Thank you, Isabella. Next is Milena.
Yeah, so I agree with all the who were talking that GCC now is facing to very the hardest challenge ever, remote instruction, and students who have no idea how gonna use Zoom, or even the teachers cannot use them.
Thank you, Milena. Next is Noah.
Noah, you're muted. Noah is frozen, so let's move on.
Okay, moving on to Ruben.
The biggest issue, in my opinion, right now is probably the lack of support from school, because during these troubled times, students need every asset available to help them get through it. So that is what I believe.
Thank you, Ruben. Moving on to Naya.
I believe that one of the hardest problems students may be facing is finding opportunity for the future of their own lives. We need more opportunity brought to them, because sometimes it may be hard for them to find. So we need more support from teachers and advisors. And for sure.
Thank you, Naya. Next is Ligia.
I would say the number one issue right now is mental health awareness, because I've read so many articles about how students' mental health has been going downhill. Their anxiety has been going uphill because they haven't been in a physical classroom surrounded by their classmates where they can contact each other. They can study after class. I know I've had.
Thank you, Ligia. Moving on to Emily.
I think the biggest challenge for students currently in our remote situation is a sense of community. And I feel that with engaging events as well as promoting student engagement through Instagram, we can really strengthen that problem and resolve the issue.
Thanks so much, Emily. Carmen?
I think the two biggest issues right now with GCC is the lack of representation and accessibility. Accessibility is a broad term. I think I would say people, they have a hard time getting to school. They have a hard time being able to be active on campus, and they don't even have the enough representation.
Thank you, Carmen. Last is Annabelle.
I think right now a lot of our students are facing insecurity, as in basic needs insecurities, because I don't think how you can focus on studying when you don't have a job, you don't have a house, when you don't have basic food and insecurities. And I think GCC really needs to work on providing those.
Okay, going back to Noah.
Noah?
I believe that one of the most, I can speak now. Yeah, I believe that one of the most important problems that people are facing right now is their access to technology, for example. Like as you just saw, my internet cut off, it's still off, I can't use my computer. People have access to hotspots and all sorts of resources that the campus can provide, such as laptops.
Time. And now we'll move to Sune.
We will now move to the candidates for the Vice President of Activities position. Ruben and Naya, both of you served in the Activities Committee this semester. And the Activities Committee is known for being the most visible committee in the ASGCC, normally doing 15+ events a semester. But since the campus closures, the committee only completed one activity event, GCC's Got Talent. Why did the committee fail to put on more events this semester? What was your role in that? And why should the students trust that it will be different under your leadership? Ruben, I'm going to begin with you.
It is clear once the COVID-19 situation hit us, it became very hard to go on with what our committee usually does, is being the face of AS and making sure everyone enjoys our events on campus. And since this is something new for all of us, as a committee, we did fail to come up with fast solutions to counter this problem. But throughout this experience right now and the time we have ahead of us, and choosing me as your VP will show that an experienced person like me, after dealing with these tough times, will know how to put events online, whether it's remote or if we go back to campus, and I will execute it perfectly to everyone's needs.
Thank you. Naya?
I think that due to a lack of leadership that we fell under, it kind of sort of blinded us to it, but I know that we should have stepped up. But I know that we did step up with GCC's Got Talent, and also we've been working on, and me and Erica, another senator, have been working on a Spirit Week, which we are doing to get students engaged. So that's something that we're adding on to the activities as well. So we're still coming up with ideas, and time hasn't ended, so we have a lot of time to still put on more activities, and I still will. And I have many ideas when I become Vice President of Activities to really include more people, and I know that those ideas will have more people involved and just be more available to the students and opportunity.
Thank you.
A follow-up question has been asked by a student. This goes back to Naya and Ruben. We'll start with, again, Ruben first. The student who asked this question says, but other committees have been able to adapt. Why haven't you been able to adapt in activities? And it's 15 seconds response. Ruben.
Just being a large committee, coming up back together might have been a real issue for us, being so many people, or just being a large committee. So it's probably the main reason why.
Naya?
I don't think it's because of a lack of, just because it's a big committee. I think that most people haven't stepped up to the abilities they should have, and they haven't provided as many ideas or have helped as much.
This question is for all the candidates. In one word, please describe your leadership style. Elise.
Collaborative. Would you
Thank
like
you.
me to elaborate?
I think we're going to be sticking to just one word.
Okay.
Thank you. Emily.
With equity.
Carmen.
Dedicated.
Milena.
Loyalty.
Digranuhi.
Experience.
Ruben.
Astounding.
Noah.
Understanding.
Ligia.
Passion.
Naya.
Humble.
Isabella.
Dedication.
Annabelle.
Inclusive.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to the candidates for the Vice President of Finance position. So the ASGCC generates revenues in excess of $750,000 per year. This revenue funds countless programs and services that promote student success. Recently, a professor complained that the ASGCC funds performing art programs, but does not fund studio art programs. Do you believe that the ASGCC budget is aligned with the organization's values? And what process will you use to develop an ASGCC budget that is equitable in how programs are funded? So for this question, we will begin with Noah, then we'll go Milena and Isabella.
So my answer to this question begins with, so we need to understand how the funding that we give to certain programs makes a difference. If we increase the funding to a certain program, what change can it make? So I believe that at the very start, of my term, if I were to be elected, I would want to oversee the increase or decrease of funding in certain programs to see whether or not this is actually, it's worth funding a program more or less. For instance, the food pantry, which has been something that's been brought up a lot more as of recently because people actually need access to food, and also because we put on, like just recently, we put on a food pantry where about 1,000 cars came to grab groceries. We see that increasing the funding for a certain program can have benefits. And I think the food pantry is just a fantastic example of that. So,
time.
Thank you. Moving on to Milena.
Yes, so my question to this question is, at first we should understand how much, for example, how much fund approximately should GCC fund has to provide everything. We should divide everything in phases to in turn. So, and so my aim is to see the improvement and not make all students upset.
Thank you, Milena. Moving on to Isabella.
So certain things that are funded by ASGCC aren't funded a lot by other community colleges. So the arts department, a lot of community colleges actually, the foundation supports that, or the community college itself supports that. So I would definitely see which departments need to be funded by AS, something maybe like the food pantry or things related to equity. And then there are other departments where I would suggest the college should take on, because I feel like that is more of a responsibility of the college. However, depending on how much funding they end up getting, we would definitely be able to support them need be.
Thank you so much, Isabella. So this next question is for all the candidates. In under 10 seconds, what should the ASGCC be funding that it is currently not funding? And I will call on your name before you answer. And we'll start with Tigunuhi.
I would say the food pantry.
Thank you. Elise?
Scholarships for more diverse groups like Filipino American Scholarship.
Thank you, Elise. Isabella?
I would say scholarships for undocumented students.
Thank you, Isabella. Next is Milena.
Expenditure of books or whatever non-document students need.
Thank you, Milena. Next is Noah.
I would say scholarships that are major specific.
Thank you, Noah. Next is Ruben.
Services for all students in need of help.
Thanks, Ruben. Next is Naya.
Support and resources for the homeless.
Thank you, Naya. Next is Ligia.
More textbook resources for students.
Thank you, Ligia. Next is Emily.
I would say scholarships for underrepresented groups and of all races, ethnicities, creeds, and backgrounds.
Thank you, Emily. Next is Carmen.
Transportation cards for people to get to the campus on time whenever they need to.
Thank you, Carmen. And last we have Annabelle.
Support for non-credit students, specifically ESL students, so that they continue their education.
Now to the Administration Committee. Recently, California passed the student representation fee, assessing a $2 fee for all community college students. Since your committee is in charge of advocacy, what is your understanding of how that money from that fee needs to be used? Please follow up with specifics on what advocacy efforts you have planned for your term. I will begin with Tigranuhi and then move on to Elise.
Hello. So I know there is a $2 extra fee. $1 does go to GCC, and the other dollar goes towards the students and the college. And I know that for advocacy, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little flustered. That $1 is going to help all of the students, whether it be for AS or all the GCC community and everyone on the campus. It covers book costs and it brings the student representation. I'm aware that Elise went to the Triple C to help support with that. And it helps all California community colleges. And it brings student representation for GCC and ASGCC as well.
5 seconds.
Thank you, Tigranuhi. Moving on to Elise.
Thank you for asking this question. This semester, I was actually the delegate for the SSCCC. It was a 3-day-long conference, and we discussed a bunch of resolutions that needed to be passed, and GCC frankly didn't have a hand in forming any of those resolutions. As a member of the SSCCC now, as Tigranuhi said, $1 is going to the state and $1 is going to the college, and the money that's going to the college should be used to fund our efforts to create resolutions and to really be more involved in the advocacy of the state for college students all across the state. I know Pasadena City College is really involved in the SSCCC, and we should really be matching them, if not surpassing them, in order to make sure that students are being represented at all levels.
10 seconds.
My plan for the upcoming semester is to have marches and protests on campus for anything that the students. Thank you.
As president, I have advocated for equity through various initiatives. Following up on a question Kayla asked earlier, I want to ask the rest of the candidates except orgs, and are you willing to publicly commit today to recruit and select senators that are representative of the diverse student body at GCC? Elise, I'll begin with you.
I was unmuted. 100%. I've been working closely with Sydney from the BSU to create a couple of events, and I think she would be an amazing candidate, but I know there are a bunch of other candidates who would also be amazing and represent a large intersectionality group of the college. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Ligia.
Having a large platform like Humans GCC, I'm definitely ready to have more diverse students in ASGCC, and I believe that equity is the #1 utmost importance of our exec team. I know everybody in my team believes this, and that if I can feature students on that page that have diverse array of talents, they can definitely come into ASGCC and bring a lot to the table.
Thank you. Moving on to Ruben.
I'm going to keep my answer simple. I'd do it in the blink of an eye.
Thank you. Moving on to Annabelle. I'm sorry, not Annabelle, I'm sorry. Moving on to Emily.
Absolutely, 100%. I've dipped my foot into making our ASGCC Instagram more diverse. If you guys have been watching our Monday Motivation and Thursday Takeovers, I have strategically gotten people diverse.
Thank you. Moving on to Tigranuhi.
I would 100%. During my time in AS, we hosted multiple different diverse events. One was the LGBTQ plus ABCs, and that was very
Thank you. Moving on to Milena.
Yeah, so the development is the most important thing that we will see and do all our best.
Thank you. Moving on to Noah.
Being equitable, considerate, and diverse is something that our team is promoting, and I think it's extremely important that we do that, that we consider that in the selection of senators.
Thank you. Moving on to Naya.
Without a doubt, AS needs more representation and diversity, and having these different people have their different diverse backgrounds will make AS and GCC a better place.
Thank you. And finally, Isabella.
Absolutely, we need a diverse group of people in AS. The only way to get a grasp on what the needs of the student body are to have diverse people within it, within the student government.
Thanks so much, Isabella. Now on to our final committee, the Relations Committee. Lygia and Emily, both of you are members of the current Relations Committee. An often forgotten responsibility of the committee is serving as a liaison to GCC athletics. How have you personally supported and promoted GCC athletics? Given that the ASGCC does very little around athletics besides funding the program, can the athletes trust that it will be different under your leadership? What will you commit to doing to promote their programs? We'll go Emily first and then Lygia.
Yes, thank you for asking this question. I've been aware of the neglect towards GCC athletics, and I've tried to solve that problem by including GCC athletes to be represented in our ASGCC Instagram. So our Monday motivation, the past 2 weeks, where I have asked athletes to do the segment just so they get the representation, as well as the Thursday takeover. I've been very involved, DMing athletes, texting athletes to do it so they do get a representation on our Instagram, which is a big platform. We have a lot of followers, and I would love to continue that more and find new ways to put on engaging events with athletes, maybe in collaboration with them, to improve this area where we are lacking in. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Lygia, go ahead.
So I would say that I've personally been in contact with the GCC women's volleyball and all of the sports athletics at GCC, because I know that all the athletics is funded through AS, and without AS, sadly, they don't have support. And that since athletes sadly don't have that much support right now, I'm ready to bring a new approach to our platform, to have weekly posts about them, to show our constant support so they feel like they are involved on campus, whether or not they're a part of AS. So they know they have a backbone, they know they have our support, they know that we can be a voice to them through them. And I believe in promoting all athletes regardless, female or male.
Thank you, Lygia. Moving on to our next question. So in 45 seconds each, many of you have run on the platform of equity. So what does equity mean to you, and what have you specifically done to advance equity at GCC? Again, I will call on each candidate before you guys speak. So we'll start with Tiganuhi.
Equity to me is fairness, and I believe that I've, with my time in 2 semesters in AS and being in the activities committee with hosting events for LGBTQ and different communities on the campus, I feel like we've included and been fair in my committee to these organizations on our campus, these clubs and these different resources that we have provided.
Thank you, Tiganuhi. Moving on to Elise.
Equity is more than just fairness. It's giving more to people who need more and giving less to people who can do without it. And I believe that in order to really level the playing field of opportunities at GCC, we really need to be doing more to bring more voices to the table of people who need it. One of our senators right now was the president of the Voices Club, which is for the Dreamers. And a voice like that cannot go underrepresented. And he has been instrumental in really making sure that students from that same background have equitable opportunities. Personally, I worked closely with Kevin Dimatulak from Cultural Diversity and from the Multicultural and Community Engagement Center to create events that really promote equity in the same way. I think ASGCC just needs to be doing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Moving on to Isabella.
Equity is definitely about giving people that don't have as much as others enough to be able to be at level playing field. Myself, I've definitely educated myself on struggles of minority groups, racial minorities, people part of the LGBTQ plus community, because I think the number one thing to combat ignorance is education. And so I have definitely come at this with an open mind. I have privileges myself. I have lighter skin. I come from a relatively well-off family, so I don't think it's okay that I don't educate myself on other people's struggles. So the number one priority in equity is delivering on that promise. So I educate myself by talking to people from diverse groups and plan on incorporating them into the senators of AS.
Thank you, Isabella. Moving on to Milena.
For me, equity is means not to make changes, not to make differences between groups or group of people, and because it's important to not make any difference between people, group of people. It depends on any race or what country people will come.
Thank you, Milena. Moving on to Noah.
I think that people often confuse equality with equity. Equality is more of a system where everyone's given the same opportunity, whereas equity is where we give support to people who are underrepresented. And I think that that's something that's extremely important in our GCC community. And I think that ASGCC should be a proponent of that. Through engagement in the STAR program, a program where college students go to high schools and middle schools and educate students about diversity, I was able to educate myself on all of these issues. And I think that I will be I will be able to push this in all the aspects of GCC.
Thank you, Noah. Moving on to Ruben.
To me, it means the thousands of students that we have at GC have equal opportunities, and me being in the activities committee and as the future VP of activities will make it my mission to reach out and really tie in the community to provide equity for every student on campus, or sense of it.
Thank you, Ruben. Next is Naya.
Okay, so equity means being welcoming and fair to everyone and making them feel like they have the support and opportunities just like everyone else. I've helped with being considerate about their students and their own individual situations. This is seen in my advocacy to prevent the hydrogen cell panels from being placed in Lot B, which would take away parking spots from students when it's already hard. And from this, if it were to pass, I'm still advocating for parking passes to be cheaper, considering the students. I'm in an enrollment management committee and pushed for the virtual tour for students who won't be able to experience GCC itself. And it's little things like this that will help the students and their futures at GCC.
Thank you, Naya. Next is Ligia.
Just starting off, going off of what Naya said about the virtual tour, it was an idea that I had, and then I contacted her because I believe that every student's voice is extremely, extremely important. And of course, Naya being another senator of ASGCC, she had a perfectly different point of view from me, and we collaborated and we created the virtual tour. And I promoted equity and all of these things through my personal account, regardless if it's posted on ASGCC or not, to show my personal support for people who are of different genders, different sexualities, anybody who's different from me. Of course, me having lighter skin, it makes it harder for people to, I guess, believe this, but I'm of course always here to stand for everybody who's of different ethnicities and all of that.
Thank you, Ligia. Next is Emily.
So this past year on the relations front, I have really tried to incorporate equity as much as possible. Some ways I have done this is fall 2019, I co-wrote a script for our diversity and inclusion recruitment video to get an array of people to apply to ASGCC and therefore provide equity and further our diversity in ASGCC. In fall 2019, I also made a IGTV video that went up on our ASGCC Instagram that brought awareness to the Pride Center. So through these ways, I have tried to promote equity, be equitable, and I hope to continue that if elected Vice President of Relations with the Hispanic Heritage Month week-long celebration.
Thank you, Emily. Next is Carmen.
I think people confuse equity and equality a lot, especially thinking that all diversity is part of equity, but equity is the fair treatment and the fair access and leveled opportunity and advancement for all people while being able to strive for their identities and eliminating the barriers between any participation of all groups. And I can say that I personally have worked with the DSPS, Disabled Center on campus, in order to create an event for students with disabilities However, due to the quarantine, we had to put a halt to the project, and I plan on continuing this project either this semester with my organizations committee or next semester as a VP of organizations.
Thank you, Carmen. And last, we have Annabelle.
Key to me is giving the resources needed to make a fair playing field. And in reality, education is the best way to reach equity. But people cannot have a valuable and quality education without having basic needs met first. So I have since 2015 worked with the food pantry when it first started. Worked with the food pantry by volunteering and personally going and personally buying supplies for the food pantry. And that's not the only thing, is that in the orgs committee, I have made friends throughout associates throughout the clubs that I've worked with, especially Voices and Nintendo Club and other clubs that I've personally suggested and right now trying to get them to become senators, because I believe that their voices are so much more valuable. And with my privilege of being a senator and my privilege of being able to live where I live, I need to use that privilege to continue and bring up people who do not have those same things so we can better serve our students. Thank you.
What is one new/innovative educational event you will do next semester? You will have 50 seconds to respond. Let's start off with Ruben.
Due to the announcement that school will be remote in the fall, I'm willing to start an online study hall for students with like subjects so they could study together and enjoy peaceful times to get their work done efficiently.
Noah.
I believe that although we've already have many financial aid events where we discuss and educate students on what they can do within the boundaries of the school in terms of like financing themselves, for those who have financial difficulties, I believe that having a financial aid educational event where we...
Thank you. Carmen?
I plan on creating an educational event that revolves around disabilities, whether it is physical disabilities or mental disabilities. And I hope to also make a Make-A-Wish club on campus, because I do believe that equity is highly important, and so is student engagement.
Thank you. Emily?
I would like to put on a week-long educational initiative event for Hispanic Heritage Month, which is from September 15th to October 15th. I would like to have one day dedicated to a professor teaching us about Hispanic heritage, and I'm hoping to get Professor Fabiola Torres. And I hope to have somebody come.
Thank you. Moving on to Isabella.
I think that it's important to have an event that goes with the times, and the reality is right now, Black and Brown people are being disproportionately affected by COVID-19. So I think that an educational event about the disparities in socioeconomic levels of people of Black and Brown heritage would be really beneficial to other students in order to raise awareness about those issues and to combat them with an informed background.
Thank you. Milena?
Yeah. So I would create any good positive platform that any student during the remote instruction will be able to ask us any kind of problem in case they have any financial problem or question.
Thank you. Elise?
As a Filipino woman, my first one of the events my committee prepared was the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and it was the first time I felt represented at a school. And I want to be able to extend that feeling and that wonderful emotion to everybody else at the college, no matter what race or ethnicity they identify.
Thank you. Ligia?
So I want to create a diversity fair. So each day of the week, Monday through Friday, we will be having different clubs, of course, like Voices, BSU, LGBTQ, to have all these students being represented so they feel like whenever they're at home, like I said, mental health goes down, which is sad, but they can feel like they have a place to go.
Thank you. Annabelle?
I would love to put on an educational event surrounding veterans because I feel like they're very underrepresented on our campus, and we actually do have a very large population of them compared to other community colleges. And I think it's important to put on an event surrounding them.
Thank you. Naya?
Okay. Since we are in remote learning, it's a situation we've never dealt with before, and I want to produce ideas that revolve around student engagement and inclusivity. And I have plans for events such as a cultural event that gets club engagement and outreach to more students so people can be more aware of hardships.
Thank you. And finally, Tigranuhi.
So since we will be starting in the fall semester, it's when all of our freshmen start coming. So something that I struggled with was figuring out what my major would be. So what I want to do is have a majors table talk. It would be a week-long event, and professors from each impacted major would spend one day talking about their experiences and how they came out to be.
Thank you. As the final question, what will you do differently than the current VP serving in the role that you are running for? Let's begin with Carmen.
So something we did want to do last semester was implement a sort of yearbook, and what I would like to do is to have a virtual or real club journal, so we can have all the clubs do something involving, especially during our IOC meetings. And I would like to have a weekly club spotlight that promotes all of the clubs on campus, that allows them to have a platform to speak on other than their own Instagrams, and we could advertise them throughout all of GCC.
Thank you. Elise?
One of the things I would do differently than my current VP, who is sitting right here, is to really be more ambitious in the events that we plan. The Asian Pacific American Heritage Month event that I've been talking about was born out of an ambitious idea to really represent a culture, and I would want to be able to do more of that for other groups at the college, not just culture, but for the LGBTQ community, anyone who's been is a system impacted individual, and all sorts of different groups that just really go under the radar and underrepresented at our college. Thank you.
Thank you. Ligia?
I would definitely implement TikTok because I know it's a very large part of today's young culture. I want to make GCC more of an open book program because I know personally before I joined ASGCC, I was not aware that much of what actually goes into the work ethic. And I want to kind of open that up so more students can see what goes on behind the scenes, so they can feel like they're more, they're just welcome to come to our committee meetings. They're welcome to come to our ledge. So creating TikTok and also an outreach program for high school students, I think would be the best type of way to reach out for more students. And that's what I would do differently.
Thank you. Naya?
So I will make sure that I will show up for my senators and the school. The only way teams work is that if every individual is present and sharing ideas equally instead of just waiting for anyone else to do the work. I want to collaborate with more underrepresented students at GCC and create events to showcase their individual talents, and overall the futures of their lives are so important, and it relies on us to be there for everyone.
Thank you. Tigranuhi?
So currently I'm running for administration, but I'm an activities senator, so I'm assuming I would be talking about Kayla. And I didn't work with Kayla too closely, but I do know that she's doing an amazing job this semester with administration. And the only thing I would change was host maybe a few more events and include multiple different groups on campus, not only AS or clubs or different resources, but everybody in AS, similar to what Lydia said about the diversity fair, just to have everybody, all types of clubs, all types of people be included in our events, and just have it be very inclusive for everybody on campus. And anybody who doesn't even come to GCC, all of our events are open to the public.
Thank you. Annabelle?
What I would do differently other than my great VP is first, I would really just try to focus on club collaboration because I feel like there's a lot of potential there about getting clubs to collaborate each other and following through. And that leads to the AS connection. I feel like the main thing that I felt as a new senator was that we don't have the connection that we could have with the clubs. I feel like we could be so much more into the clubs and so much showing up more for the clubs than we are right now. And I think especially with coronavirus, we have to make it a lot more friendly and online. And the good thing is that means a lot more people can come. Something like club takeovers on the Instagram, something like having events that are, that are fun and educational. I think it's really important that AS is more into the clubs than it was before.
Thank you. Melina?
As a future VP, I'll make all resources available for the students in case of we are going to have remote instruction again. I will be in touch with all the students, with my team, with my senators. Will help students to stay connected, and I will cooperate with my team to do our best.
Thank you. Ruben?
My VP and the VP before him have done great jobs of building me up for this role for the future, and I really want to capitalize on what they've done so far and maximize our opportunities by working with everyone. We throw events for the LGBTQ plus community on campus and other big clubs. We really have to dive into the smaller and unheard people of GCC and do the events for them.
Thank you. Noah?
Though I'm an activities senator at the moment, and I spoke with Roy, a financial VP, throughout the semester. I wasn't able to closely monitor their work, but what I do think, and though they've done a phenomenal job, I do think that one way to assess the financial needs of students would be to create a podcast where students can come and discuss how they feel and what they think needs to be done for GCC, and they can communicate their ideas to us, and we can hopefully help make changes to campus. And this doesn't have to be exclusive to finance. It can be inclusive of any topic that they think is relevant to GCC at the moment.
Thank you. Isabella?
This semester we did a financial literacy event on budget and savings, but we were planning to do a series of that. So as a VP of Finance, I would continue the one on budget and savings, add one on investment, add one on developing a 401k, and maybe one also that teaches people from maybe lower socioeconomic backgrounds how to earn more money in safe and effective ways.
Thank you. And lastly, Emily.
Something I would do differently is I would like to plan events that go hand in hand with our relations committee. For example, I would love to plan an event that is how to build a brand, branding 101, how to market yourself, things like that go hand in hand with the relations committee, and get speakers that either work in that area, work in public relations, work in advertising, or people who are very educated on the topic, and hopefully have a great event.
Thank you.
Okay. Since that was our last question, that concludes tonight's forum and debate. I want to thank all the candidates for sharing their platforms and addressing all these student concerns, given the time constraints for each question. I know it wasn't easy. To our attendees, thank you so much for joining us today. Please join us again tomorrow night for our presidential candidate forum and meet your future student body president. Remember that voting begins this weekend and will be open from May 17th to May 23rd. And all those that are eligible to vote will be sent a ballot to their GCC student email addresses. And if you made the time to come out tonight and you're considering joining again tomorrow night, please take 5 minutes to vote for your next student leaders this weekend. For more information on how to vote, please visit our website at glendale.edu/AS and keep up to date with our Instagram stories. Our Instagram can be found at as.gcc. And to enter tonight's raffle for a $50 gift card, please send your student email in the chat before